blind date freak. You don't want to be somebody else.
I don't want to get anybody mixed up. My spot, right?
She's still watching the dogs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Her babies? Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, I think you're on the end. Oh, no, you're down there. Right next to the,
Hey, what's up?
yeah, I
Oh,
did.
yeah. I'm worried about that. I didn't have. When's you, bud? Right here, Mom. Yeah, coming along with crying. Yeah. Well, I think people be full when I turn it up and down, but I'll get you down there whenever you get time. Music will close down, you don't have time. Yeah, we need to order a new headset too for them. Yeah. I'll stop now, I'll call you. If we were going to have much of it.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mom here.
Yes.
Mr. Ronaldo?
Here.
Mr. Marshman?
Here.
Mr. Lake?
Here.
Mr. Martray?
Here.
Mr. Martucci?
Here.
Mr. Mongeau?
Yes.
Mr. Panzella? Mrs. Sangston?
Here.
And Mr. O'Malley?
Here. Stand for a moment. Silence. Pledge allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We were in executive session from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on a contractual issue. And with that, We have no public comment. Personnel review, please.
We have one motion. It's going to be read by our superintendent, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Ms. Mongeau. Bear with me if I might have to go over my words once or twice. To authorize and offer an early retirement incentive to Connellsville Area Education Association teacher employees who submit for retirement to the Connellsville Area School District on or before April 10th, 2020, with an effective retirement date between March 10th, 2020 and June 30th, 2020, as follows. Either A, with a minimum of 6 retired employees, such retirees will receive 1 additional year of health insurance coverage up to age 65. And Mr. Witt, at that point, should I stop?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Or B, with a minimum of 10 retired employees, such retirees will receive 1 additional year of health insurance coverage up until age 65 and a one-time payment of $5,000 as a 403B contribution. All health insurance coverage, premiums, contributions, and other health insurance characteristics will be as provided under the then current CAEA collective bargaining agreement.
And I so move.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Sangston?
Yes.
Mr. Ronaldo?
Yes.
Mr. Harshman?
No.
Mr. Lee?
I'm a no, but I got a question, Mr. Ronaldo, to be able to vote on this. He has a wife that fit into this category. I don't think he should be voting on it.
Solicitor, can you address that, or Mr. Witt?
Yes, so that question was addressed previously. It was raised previously, I should say. Mr. Ronaldo indicated that his wife would not be taking advantage of this buyout and also the provisions of the State Ethics Act. If it's a category of employees where it affects all the employees equally, it is permissible then for individual board members to vote. So my opinion for the record is that this would not present a conflict under that specific set of facts.
That was a no vote for me.
Okay. Mr. Mortray?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
No.
Mr. Mongeau?
Yes.
And Mr. Ronaldo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mr. Mongeau to finish personnel and review and liaison.
Oh, that's all we have. Thank you.
That's all you have? Mr. Grinaldo, you passed something to me here. Is there additional items you'd like to place on the agenda tonight?
Yes, there is. I passed out to the board and to our superintendent and solicitor and the secretary two motions that came out of the curriculum committee in the recent meetings that we've had. And we weren't able to address them fully in the last meeting, so we thought we would take this opportunity here to do so. And the reason we are doing it now, as opposed to at the end of the month, is because we know that there's a time sensitive on registering the students, and we wanted to get this out of the way as quickly as possible. So we are taking advantage of this special meeting. I have 2 motions for tonight. One, request approval of the following updated additions to the CAMS course selection book for 2020-2021. One, or A, or letter, PSSA ELA tutorial, PSSA math tutorial, science labs, key algebra labs. And without questions or objections, I'd like this so moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Question?
Yes, go ahead. Which one, whichever one, Mr. Laker, Ms. Larson.
My only question is, this has to do with the 9 periods at the middle school and doing away with March, right? That all coincides with that?
If I may answer that, these are additional courses that were put together in the course selection book. The additions are because of the fact of the going to a 9-period day. That is correct. If you would like, I could go down through each one of them. The book says, the course selection book only addresses PSSA tutorials. We would like to make sure that that's clear, that that's an ELA tutorial and a math tutorial. The science labs were addressed by the administration as well at our last meeting, the curriculum meeting, and because of the safety of the students when you're creating a lab situation, they felt that they needed some additional time to be able to do that. So we talked about the science lab being a component, and we were in favor of that, but I noticed that it does not appear in the course book as a lab. Same with the Keystone Algebra Lab. That one would be those students, there's 70 to 90 students, who are also required to take not only the PSSA math each year, but also the Keystone Algebra tutorial. And this will give them some additional time to be able to work on particular skill sets to be prepared for the test. If they pass the Keystone Algebra test at the end of their 8th grade, they are then afforded an opportunity to take a critical track on higher level math at the high school. So it's kind of like, if you look at it as a booster to the main group. Both of these motions would take advantage of the AB schedule rather than be every day of the week. So they would not take away very little time from the students so that they can still take electives, which we are encouraging them to do.
My question is, why are we just receiving this now?
I believe I addressed that before, but I'd be happy to do it again. This is coming out of meetings that we've had since.
Since our last board meeting?
Prior and afterwards, yes. And we're running into a time crunch to make sure that these tutorials are available and the lab is available. Both of those labs at the middle school are available for the students. Right now, they're not in their course selection book.
Just a point of order, I've had this for several minutes. I asked the board to table this. I haven't had time to vet this with the administrative team. I'm not sure the ramifications of these. There's no course descriptions. I'm not sure who qualifies for these, and I just feel ill prepared to say to a building with that number of students and that number of teachers that this is now, I asked it for it to be professionally tabled.
May I give clarification to that? PSSA tutorial is in the course selection book. All this motion is doing is asking that it would be defined as an ELA and a math tutorial, rather than just a straight PSSA tutorial, so that the student would then know what they're signing up for. The science lab was directly addressed by the current administration at the middle school, and Mr. Bradley and Dr. Jacobs were in attendance at that meeting along with the entire curriculum committee when that was brought up. It's not in there, and I missed that when we accepted it. I thought that since it was something that they were encouraging us to accept, that it would have been there. This is cleaning that up.
You wouldn't, but the way the scheduling process works is you're scheduled into the science. The lab is married to the science. A child can't take science without the lab. They're married together. You can't just take the lab without the theory part. They have to be scheduled together, and they're scheduled back to back, so that there is a longer period of time, and then that works on the AB schedule, as you stated exactly.
Right, and I have a longer explanation of this rationale that I'm not giving now, but I would have to do that. The science is important because the science teachers and the administration felt, and they made their case to us as the committee, that they needed that extra time to set up, to actually have the students engaged in a lab situation, and then also the time to shut down and get ready for the next class. Using the AV schedule, they will be able to afford to do that. What they've been doing under the block schedule is they had those 60 minutes where they were then doing the lab, I don't know how often, but when they did a lab, they did it at the end of that class period. This is just making sure that the lab is available to the science teachers, 6, 7, and 8, and is available to the students to take on an AV day. The student won't choose the AV day. I'm certainly sure the administration will do that for them when they do their schedule.
Just point of clarification, you don't have science without the lab. Like you know, what I mean, like you just.
So therefore, we should table that motion, this motion, I would think, until further information. And also, the question for the solicitor, do we need a 2/3 vote for this, since we have not had this prior to tonight?
I'm not aware of a requirement for the 2/3 votes. Under the school code, it's a simple majority.
And we're under Robert's Rules of Order, so is it Robert's Rules of Order?
I would have to specifically look under Robert's rules to see if that was required for this motion, since it wasn't presented on an agenda prior to this evening.
Okay, prior to the vote, could you check on that for us?
Yeah.
So I believe there's a motion on the floor to table. We would have to get that out of the way before we proceed with this particular motion.
I second the table you had.
You already have a motion on the floor.
I'd be happy to move the motion then.
Which,
We already have a motion and a second to approve it, so we have to see if it fails.
Okay. So I call the question on number 1.
we're waiting for solicitor.
Well,
Have the district adopted Robert's Rules of Order as its official?
No, also. We don't,
It's listed
we,
in the policy.
we go by the Robert's Rules of Order, but we're not strictly bound by the Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay, so we have,
It's listed in the policy as to follow, I believe, but I would have to say, if you give me a second, I can find it. I mean, I'm trying to do stuff on the fly here. Give me 1 second, I'll post it.
Mr. Gronaldo, I have one other question. Do we have the staff to do that and the room?
Mr. Hirschman, I'm not sure I follow your question. Could you rephrase it for me?
Do we have the staff to run these programs?
We must, because the PSSA tutorial does appear in the course selection book. All this motion does is separates it or defines it as an ELA and a math tutorial. That's all this does. Science labs where, as Mr. Bradley mentioned and I mentioned, are encouraged, we were encouraged as a committee to understand the need for them. They do not appear in the booklet as well. In the algebra, Keystone Algebra Lab, we have 70 to 90 students who would benefit, and also then benefit the high school that as a sending group, they would benefit to be able to move through the math a little bit. They're the only group of students that we have at the middle school that are required to take both tests. This is student-oriented. All 4 of these are student-oriented. the staff is on hand, currently there, to be able to handle these, and they are needed.
Shall govern. All board meetings will be conducted in an orderly and businesslike manner. Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, including group rules, shall govern the board.
According to school code, Robert's Rules of Order is not the sole governing body of the board.
We need to revise our policy. Our policy states that.
Well, I don't know about the policy, but I know it's not under school code, so it's not stated. It just tells us we should follow the guidelines for Robert's Rules of Order, but it is not the sole entity of the, whatever we come up with as a policy.
October 24, 2018, the board enacted this policy. It says, Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, including group rules, shall govern the board.
Yeah.
You can change the policy, but
I was
that's,
gonna call you later, I'm at the school board meeting, but they're not doing shit, I'm walking.
yeah, correct.
Beans went down 20 cents, 19.5 cents today. Now, you think I'll get the right amount of money? I'm worried now. Yeah.
If we could table this, we get some, notice, our staffing, certifications, what we need, before we could, make any of these major changes.
Well, there's a motion on the floor, it would have to be acted upon before we would consider tabling it.
My initial question is there any past practice here where we have invoked Robert's Rules of Order to that end for a situation like this? Because typically the school code is going to provide the voting criteria and the number of people that are required to vote affirmative or in favor of a motion, and Robert's Rules of Orders would not be able to supersede that. I'm not familiar of anything that would require anything to the contrary other than a simple majority vote, despite the fact that the district has adopted Robert's Rules to generally serve as a guideline for its meetings, unless, once again, the district has a past practice specifically in a situation like this that would require two-thirds majority. Are we aware of there being a past practice to that effect?
I would have to defer to our longest sitting board members on that. I am not aware that there's a past practice that would not allow a simple majority to vote on the motion.
I've only been here since '95, but during that time, I can't remember at any time that
There's
Robert's
specific
Rules of
rules.
Order had to be called into play for this. Kevin, you've been here 4 years longer than I have.
According to school law handbook and according to school code, there's specific things that the board have to have a two-thirds majority to vote on, and they spell it out very clearly in the school code. Robert's Rules of Order has to do with whatever we can vote on or what we can't vote on. They just have a specific way of running a meeting. And if we adopted a policy, just like Mr. Witt said, it can't supersede the school code. We are bound by the school code, by Robert's Rules of Order. We can't say, well, we're going away with what school code says, we'll just make it. 4 people vote in favor and 2 vote no, it's a good vote, because it's not. It's 2/3. Certain things is 2/3 vote, and certain things is majority.
So with the school code being as it is, and there being no specific defined practice here in the district with respect to a 2/3 requirement for a motion like this, my opinion with respect to this matter is that it would not require a 2/3 majority vote, or a 2/3 vote. It would just require a mere majority vote for this specific item.
I can call them.
Okay, we have a motion. Excuse me. We have a motion and a second. there's been a request to table the motion. Mr. Bernardo, do you want to vote it as you read it? Do you wish to change your motion? And before you answer that question, I've got a question for the superintendent. If this was to be delayed for 2 weeks, is that going to be a problem selecting courses?
The students have already begun the process, and the administration has begun the process. They're aware of their course selection book for 2021 at CAMS. We're asking the students to go and communicate with their families so that when they come into school, they'll have a discussion with their family on what electives and what courses that they would like to choose. Any change, whether it's today or in the future, impacts that scheduling process.
But as Mr. Bernardo, I believe, pointed out, PSSA tutorials are on there, correct?
They're on there. It just says tutorial. They won't specify ELA math. The concept PSSA tutorial is in the course selection handbook, course selection book for 2021.
And what does that mean? Does it mean that you can take math or ELA?
Let me look at the course description. I'll give you a second to find it.
And I was present for the science lab, and the administration group that was present there was lobbying for the science labs. And so I was there. I did hear that with my own 2 ears. And whether it's in the book or not, I don't know if that makes it relevant or not.
I understand the edit. How it reads now is PSSA tutorial, for example, 6. This course will provide remediation instruction focused on the PSSA. The tutorial course will target student individual skills needed based on past performance with the PSSA. I'm not sure why we need to delineate between ELA between ELA and math. It's the student that didn't earn proficiency, they're going to be remediated.
Mr. Bradley, question.
Okay.
So you pretty much recommend and would like us to give you some time to look over this and redo a little research, right, before this is actually voted on? Sounds right? Am I right? I agree with that?
Or just let it die. I would rather this not. I guess not knowing and only having something now for about 17 minutes.
If you're not in favor, just my opinion, as a
I'm not in favor of
as a
this.
superintendent, and us not really fully knowing all the details about this, hopefully everybody here, for respect of you as a superintendent, we can table this and go further into it before it's voted on.
Call the question.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bernardo?
Yes.
Mr. Harshman?
Now,
Mr. Lake?
No.
Mr. Martre?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci? Mr. Montiel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sangston?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Malley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion number 2, request approval to reinstate in the CASD High School course selection book for 2020-21. I will have an edit to this. The bottom one, business personal finance with integrated banking, it is listed as such, but not in the first sheet, which is what I looked at. It just says business and personal finance. So I was concerned that we were putting this time and effort into a banking at the high school, and if this was dropped, I thought that would certainly affect that program. I've been assured by Mr. Burley and that that's not going to be the case. So I'm going to amend this one, if I may, to read, request approval to reinstate to the CASD High School course selection book for 2020-2021, Keystone Algebra Tutorial, Keystone ELA Tutorial, and Keystone Biology Tutorial. And without questions or objections, I so move.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Point of order, please, Mr. President. Just, there are pathways for graduation passed by the state that involved Keystone testing and passing of Keystones, where we were trying to move away from students having to take the Keystones multiple times to prove proficiency. We'd rather than prove proficiency through some of our strengths and some of the student strengths, such as NOCTI and such as their SAT scores and earning certificates at the Career and Technology Center. With that said, I ask that we not enact this. I'm not in favor of number 2. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Are they still required to take the Keystones once?
Correct, once.
And if they fail?
There's other pathways.
Well, I mean, if they fail, is that noted against our test scores?
Correct.
Okay.
But they're not required to take it. And we would.
No, after they fail, they can take it some other way. They can
prove proficiency some other way. Correct.
But they have to take it at least once.
Correct. And this Keystone Algebra tutorial, without a description, I just have the words Keystone tutorial. I'm assuming this would be for students that didn't earn proficiency their first time. I guess as
The Keystone Algebra tutorial, the Keystone ELA tutorial is a Keystone Biology tutorial are all part of the curriculum, and there are course descriptions, and there were courses run up to last year.
And again, I just state for the record that those were prior to the Commonwealth and Pennsylvania Department of Education approving various pathways for proficiency proving for graduation.
And I would like to just add on to that the teaching staff and the parents and the students have found this very beneficial for the students and their children and the students themselves have felt that it was a help to them. Again, it's student-oriented, all 3 of them. For those students who would like to have this extra help, who don't plan to follow the other pathways, but are going to retake the Keystone, this would be a benefit to them.
Thank you for that clarification. So the elective for those students, they wouldn't be forced into it based on PSSA scores because they may choose a different pathway for graduation.
Right.
So this would be an elective for someone that's going to retake the Keystone.
I would think so. That would be my understanding.
Any further questions?
It clarifies some of that amendment. I thank you.
We have an opportunity to go through this.
Any further questions?
Could you clarify the banking and business and personal finance again? I couldn't understand this entire.
It actually appears in our course selection handbook. There's a chart of all the classes, and it's truncated in the chart where it's just listed as business and personal finance. The course descriptions, it is available. It is listed fully as business and personal finance with integrated banking. Business personal finance with integrated banking practice is to provide students with basic financial tools and knowledge that will enable them to build the lives they envision. The course will cover financial responsibilities, planning for the future, budgets, income, and careers, spending and credit. This course will partner with a local bank offering real-life work experience. Students will have the opportunity to work in a live bank setting by partnering with a local bank in-house, banking days and times to be determined. So the truncation of all in the physical book, we cut the title down a little bit on a chart. It doesn't show up fully on the chart, and then in the course description, it is fully listed there. So thank you, Mr. Harshman.
And Mr. Hartman, I also agree that, we don't want to take away any opportunities our students have, and that's the reason I brought it up originally.
Thank you.
Okay, no more questions. Roll call, please.
Mr. Harshman?
No.
Mr. Lake?
No.
Mr. Martre?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
No.
Mr. Montiel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sangston?
Yes.
Mr. Ronaldo?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Malley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
No public comment for non-agenda items. Superintendent, anything further to add?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Thank you.